Starting lineup: Teemo, Yi, Mel, Fortune, Soraka up against Trundle, Vi, Annie, Samira, Lux. Rating of the picks for a casual game: Teemo as a top, 5. Yi in the jungle, 7. Mel as a mid, 7. Fortune as a shooter, 7. Soraka as a sport, 1. Trundle as a top, 9. Vi as a jungler, 9. Samira as a shooter, 10. Lux in support. We're gonna bump Lux up from a 6 to a 7. So that's a 7 in support for Lux. In this game we get this Samira player who enjoys dressing herself up like a smurf to the max, logs out and goes off to another account, trying to test and see if they still got it, seeing if they can game the matchup system. We have this Yi player in this game who's going to play Rat for the Rat Trap. I don't think that the adjustments that I'm making based on what I'm seeing are so senseless. There's a lot to do here about seeing the difference between a lack of consistency and gradually developing. Sometimes people need to make a new beginning, sometimes it's BS and sometimes it's just an excuse. We'll have to level it all out and see the difference down the line. Moving on. It's not hard to see that Samira's dash, blade whirl, and wind-up attacks make it easier for her to close gaps quickly. When combined with her flare and blade whirl, she can engage in skirmishes and escape quickly, making it harder for Fortune to respond. And just no let-up, you don't even need Lux with the assist early on. And I have to say, like, diving in deeper into player morality, it's understandable that some people see Lux as a support rather than a shooter. You tell me that tale about how you want a long-term ADC. I think personally it's funny to draw the line at that when you already have mages in the top lane and you already have a bunch of goofy stuff going on in the mid lane. It's ironical to me that the hard line in the sand is the ADC and building up that very deep endgame power spike, which is true, it's true. There's nobody who can get stronger than Caitlyn, Yone, and Fortune in deep endgame, that's true. But it's a funny thing to exactly want that and then nothing else, of that original harmony. And of course Samira's passive, Daredevil Impulse, rewards her for quickly chaining abilities together, letting her deal burst damage that is hard for squishy ADCs like Fortune to survive. We have this childish game going on again with stealing jungle monsters. The guy who taught me always explicitly told me to not do that, and he would never do that himself. You get stuck in this ridiculous loop where you end up going out of your way to screw each other over in jungle monsters. You naturally see the natural consequence is that you don't have the territorial presence to defend your own jungle monsters. Why is this specifically stupid? But enigmatics. The whole game is about bullying the enemy, enigmatics. What are you saying, enigmatics? You're so stupid, enigmatics. You have to bully the enemy jungler. No, here's why this is stupid. You're putting yourself in a position where your natural farm location is directly adjacent to the enemy turrets and to the enemy borders, meaning that they respawn there, they house themselves there, they have minions there, and they have turrets there. If you ever get caught in a place like that, you're at a wild disadvantage. This is why this is stupid. You're making your new home to farm somewhere where you only have disadvantages. If you really want to screw the other guy, outspeed them. Speed farm and do it faster than them. Race them. Make sure you have twice the amount of gold collected overall, whether it's from your jungle or theirs. That's the real way to screw them. Yeah, we have this Trundle, and I'm not really going to take a dump on it. I think if you have no skill in the casuals and you play anything other than mid, I can be very forgiving to you. But this is obviously not how you play Trundle up against Teemo. You make Teemo tired, and you make sure that all of his traps are for nothing. That's how you fight off Teemo. What you're doing here is you go, there's a person who's going to put a bunch of traps everywhere in Teemo. Let me advance as much as possible so I run into all of them. Display a beautiful depiction of why higher up people prefer Vi so much to Yi, and Yi is not even considered a real jungler higher up. This is all unnecessary, of course. Vi just thinks on a completely different level. Whether you like that or not, whether you agree with the visual shape of it or not, Vi at all times here is a complete master of the situation, and this is totally unnecessary. Vi can simply punch any of these walls and get away at any time that she pleases. There is no reason to tough it out whatsoever. The flexibility level of Vi compared to that of Yi is... the gap could not be greater. This is as big of a balancing problem as you're going to find in League of Legends. So one character can do nearly anything, the other character can only stand and fight. And then naturally you're stupid enough to stand and fight, yeah well. It's just such a complete brain-dead depiction. You're not even using your power glove. Certainly you could have used one of your spells. You're literally not using any spells whatsoever, just auto-attacking. You're one level lower and you still almost get him down. So yeah, Yi, hate to break it to you, I personally love the shape and the depiction of Yi. I love the way Yi looks. I would very much love to play Yi myself. But very much unfortunately, Yi is quite a senile character compared to the other junglers in the game. No options whatsoever on there, and then on top of that, he's actually not even that strong in straightforward combat either. Samira's aggression combined with her mobility and ability to block damage with her second spell allows her to trade effectively and bully Miss Fortune early. Fortune relies more on poke and spacing for survival. It's all about using that early game power spike to the fullest, and Samira's kit is perfect for capitalizing on it. If you can live your life without shame, do you, homie. Jumping over hills and hillocks here to get the kill steal. I'm not going to lie, everybody's sensitive to it to some degree. Good thing that I didn't build my whole game around that, because if I would have had to quit League a long time ago. I'm not going to hide that I'm very bad at kill stealing, I am. I'm very glad that I'm bad at that rather than at something else. I'd rather be good at farming the objective or defending the base, if I'm honest. Seems to be the apple in the eye of many a guy. How come I am the first that I know of to place wards like this? It's unreal. I wonder if I could get good at this position, because I seem to use my tools on a completely different level in the sense that I'm setting up traps at these jungle camps. I don't see anybody else doing this, and I don't know why. You nearly always get a catch. How many times is this Yi going to come back to this spot? And how many times am I gonna have the Drake on his bass? It's just a guaranteed kill. A lot of the super heavy tanky stuff like Mundo is the real numbers and the real thing. A lot of the lightweight stuff is about creating an illusion and poker face. This is not always the case, and certainly the example of playing Ashe up against Camille is an extreme where she's psychologically tricked into backing down. That is obviously an extreme. However, a lot of the ADC stuff in general builds around what do you think that you can do. I have found out, and I'll be interested in seeing how this develops, that Samira is wildly sensitive to this, and that should make her really fall off in the ranked tiers, as we hopefully will see higher up in the end. Because if you don't back down like this, she really doesn't have that much protection or that much armor. But of course, if you just let her go and you taste that raw combo power, this is devastating. Once she gets in your head, it's over. Using my trap twice in a row, you're welcome to leave game. I put my money down on Annie with that stun mechanic and liking what I'm seeing. That reflect spell on Mel, I tried it myself, don't see much there. This dynamic with Lux and we're gonna end up leaving game. This is a very interesting way to use your Vi ult. Vi usually is used to lock down enemies. This is a chase down spell, you should not do it when people are chasing you. Around the Void Herald and we purchased Guardian Angel as your first item. You are now a woman confirmed. Am I seeing correctly that you have around 8 mastery on Vi? What a world we live in. The teddy bear just breaking everything up. Later on have some interaction between Lux and Fortune facing off. And again, a lot of that psyche game, a lot of that getting in your head game. Stare down the barrel and use that route, and so frequently just running off to nowhere. One day after making the commitment to never really push the surrender button again because it's a broken system in League that gets assigned completely arbitrarily to these separate matchups, and the green light is given just as randomly. I have to break my promise and use the surrender button again because we have a 4-on-5 here. This Tibbers interaction really makes Annie cool down Andy. This power spike is something else, man, with the Tibbers. When he claws at something, it's not that he just deals raw damage, he also sets them on fire. And you really create this psychological pull on people where you overtly are allowed with Tibbers to temporarily create a truly unfair situation, and that weighs on people. Really melts quickly around towers though, also called turrets. And this enemy mid just a wild focus on me, particularly going after me specifically. It always makes people bitter when you contribute to that jungle objective and then the top or other party members are just not getting involved, leaving you to die. Breaking it up into smaller bits and pieces, let's look at this game. We have this top tank playing Trundle, calling himself Raul MP73. I'm going to hazard a guess here and say that you are a man from 1973, retired or otherwise. You're playing League of Legends during the day, and you're using an abbreviation of your real name. This is really a medical story of an untrained brain, and you just see the gap between these little kids that came up with these types of games when they were 9 years old, and then a person getting into it when he's from 1973. And everything just moves slower, and you just have trouble adjusting. You don't understand the controls, you don't understand the menus. This person is really the bottom of the barrel when it comes to skill, but at the very least you didn't leave game, and at the very least you didn't play mid, which would be the largest responsibility, and you didn't play shooter, which would be the toughest responsibility, which is what a lot of old people do. So it is much smarter to go with a heavy tanky type. You're doing what you can. Then we have what I make out to be also an old woman in this Vi player, in all likelihood some kind of play on the name Astrid. Yeah, this comes close to mental handicap, like you have 7 or 8 mastery in Vi. You're using your ult as a damaging mechanic. You're not using your spells in combat. You're not using the excessive force spell. You're not using your AoE, you're not using jungle walls. Again, man, I mean, this is really... I should go 10-0 if I ever play these kinds of people. If I could have led this team to victory... ... Then we have myself. I feel like if I ever learn how to play Annie, it will be the most difficult champion I've ever learned. She really clearly is a bit of a berserker warlock, which I like. I like being tough up close, but it is very, very challenging if you have enemies in the mid who maximize their range. At times, you really just feel like a target. You almost have to play her like Gwen or like Mordekaiser. It's going to be situational at times, my success, and I will definitely have to play around turrets. Thematically, I love the fact that she's got that pure fire warlock vibe so much. I can get into mages, but fantasy-wise, they have to be pure in the magic that they use. And this character just reminds me so much of a demolition warlock from World of Warcraft. Then we have this Kuroka wax. Please comment if you know what that means, like adding wax to titles. I've seen that in the adult movie industry a couple of times, adding wax. You got that wax? I don't know what that means. Please let me know if you do. Yeah, leaving game randomly. We had a lineup about a week ago in a ranked game of Jinx, Ashe, Kaylee, and Fortune, and I left during the ban phase. I came back to the game client and it told me that I was locked out for 12 hours. Because I left a ban phase so that the entire game got cancelled and never started and never got going. And for that I was locked out of the game for 12 hours. I really do hope that if we're applying these Stalinistic kinds of punishments and disciplines, that we're being consistent with it and going all the way. Because I would very much hope that if you randomly F up my game, leave game when we're clearly ahead, we were 9-5, we were ahead 9-5 and you left game. So meaning that we had double the kills despite this completely brain-dead top and this brain-dead jungler. The mid and the shooter were so much better than the other team's mid and shooter that we were dominating, and you just throw that entire thing into the toilet and turn it into a loss. I do hope that you get locked out as well. But I'm almost certain that you won't. And that is where the problem starts arising. See, you deliberately give up on the game that I am dominating in so that I end up losing. And you won't really see punishment for that. I leave in game creation practically the character selection and I get locked out for 12 hours. The problem with draconian stuff is always the way that it is applied. That's why I'm almost always against it. Then we have this Lux player. Try to be a little bit more cooperative with your shooter. Otherwise, very well played. Then we have this Teemo player, one of these persons who feels like they have to spam in ping that they have used their flash and that they have used their summoner spells. Also, you see this so frequently, this being extremely vocal about everything. See it so frequently from Teemo players. I think you are a losing player by itself, but I think that you went up against a person who doesn't have a basic understanding of the game in this Trundle player. And so you ended up doing okay. Then we have this Yi player, which is just a story of you're making poor decisions, you have no map awareness, plus you're playing a character that has to stand and fight. However, your nervous system is working properly. You have a much better response time than the top and the jungler you're going up against. And just the ability to make quick decisions ends up making you more valuable than them. You have this mid player who seems to be deeply obsessed with this Mel character, which by itself, it's a good thing. Good for you that you can really immerse yourself into this new character. Now is a good time to explore how deep you can go with Mel, and that's a really cool challenge to do. I am afraid, though, that the answer is going to be, from what I can tell, that it's not going to be very deep. Mel seems to be a character for now who has a very understandable and simple kit and is very okay on the most fundamental level, but when it comes to any kind of complexity, she can contribute almost nothing. She seems to have no meaningful stuns, she seems to have no meaningful crowd control. Her defensive option seems to be very useless, so essentially, Mel has a very easy to use, basic damaging ability that is very mana efficient, and that is the entire character. And if you know where to stand because you have strategical insight and you know when to pop your stuff, then you're going to do okay on Mel in the lowest tiers. But she has no out, unlike, for example, Annie with Timbers. If you spam Timbers with Annie, you could turn the whole situation upside down and everybody's gonna start running away. In exchange for that, for example, Annie is much more controversial because she's a young little girl of maybe 6 or 7 years old and not a babe of a woman. Also has to get really close, and the shield is hit and miss. But when push comes to shove, she can really go, and she can turn situations around with her spells and with her ultimate, which I do not see from Mel. You have this Fortune player, seems to be the typical example of an older person playing ADC. By itself, good commitment. Just know what you're getting yourself into. Fortune is one of the hardest characters to play. Then you have this Soraka player whose name I had to look up. You have done absolutely nothing this entire game. Time for another Neptune Hyperdimension recommendation. Other recommendations, Baldur's Gate. Other recommendations, Pillars of Eternity. Go play that, you're not for this. You don't belong here. This is a very competitive game. In fact, this entire game is grounded on competitiveness, and the entire League team will hate me for saying this, but League is not for everyone. And of course, that's the illusion they're trying to foster, and you're the victim of that. Soraka's second spell, Astral Infusion, can heal allies, which is invaluable for keeping your team alive during skirmishes and team fights. Her ult, Wish, can heal the entire team across the entire map, which is a game-changing tool, especially in prolonged fights or when your team is split. This healing can swing fights and ensure your team stays healthy in mid to late game. So, in that sense, I would have to thank you explicitly for letting me die then. This is why hyper-casuals do not belong in League. Taking a look at the scoreboard here, man from 1973, going Trinity and Blade of the Ruined King. If anybody knows, I want to hear from you. Why? 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 Why has God become attack speed? You have left Catholicism, you have left the Protestants, you have left the Islam, and now you believe in attack speed. Tell me why. What motivates you? You're from 1973. You're not a child. Why do you believe that God has become attack speed? This is a Lux player who's going with Berserker boots. Now I've seen everything. Sweetheart, the reason why this is bad is because Lux is never going to increase her basic attack, so you're multiplying a value that will never be increased. A creature like Fortune is going with Boots of Swiftness, and Yomu, who's wildly multiplying her own attack. Oh my goodness, man. Sometimes, honestly. Here we have Soraka going with Warmog armor. What universe am I in? Yeah, here we see that I placed 5 wards and Soraka actually placed 4. Now there's a thing that I wouldn't have expected. So I end up with 6 in vision score and Yi ends up with 2 and he's going around in the jungle the entire time. And this old guy actually placed a ward. And this is Vi and she ran around in the jungle the entire time and we have no vision score whatsoever. Moving on.
Minions have spawned.
Are we there yet? This way. Come out, wherever you are. Skip, jump.
An enemy has been slain.
Don't be a scaredy cat.
An ally has been slain. An ally has been slain.
Are we there yet?
enemy has been slain.
Skip, jump. Right to keep up. Don't be a scaredy cat. There yet?
Down.
This way.
Rampage. Double kill. Enemy killing spree.
Come out wherever you Have you seen my vertebrae? Try to keep up.
Dominating.
Don't be a scaredy cat.
Go with me.
Hop, skip, jump.
An ally has been slain. A summoner has disconnected.
Break time. This way.
Turret plate will fall soon.
Come out wherever you are. I never play with matches.
An ally has been slain.
Are we there yet? to keep up.
Your turret has been destroyed. Enemy rampage. You have been slain.
Hop, skip, jump.
An enemy has been slain.
Have you seen my bear Tivers?
Done, essentially. We're done. The stupid cup just left game.
This way. Come out, wherever you are.
An ally has been slain.
Ashes, ashes, they all fall down.
An ally has been slain.
Are we there yet?
An ally has been slain. Your turret has been destroyed.
It's unbelievable.